My best friend took me to stay at her Uncle David Wilson's villa. In the middle of the night, I got up to use the bathroom and accidentally walked into David's room. He was leaning against the wall in loose pajamas, his eyes dark, and asked, "Emily, are you doing this on purpose?" I said, "I was sleepwalking." "Do you believe me?" He scoffed, "What do you think?" After being diagnosed with stomach cancer in Paris, I just wanted to hook up with a handsome guy before I died. Soon, I set my sights on David Wilson, who frequented bars. 29 years old, pure in body and mind, filthy rich, with both good looks and a great body. Just a bit too difficult to handle. The first time we met, I walked towards him in a strapless cocktail dress and said, "Handsome, are you alone?" In the cramped booth, David's long legs seemed a bit cramped. He lifted his eyelids and glanced at me. "What do you want?" "I want to have a drink with you." I deliberately unbuttoned my coat to reveal my back and flipped my hair. Before going out today, I specifically sprayed on the expensive perfume I bought. Unexpectedly, he frowned, his eyes filled with mockery, and casually said, "You're bothering me with your smell." "Me? Don't be ridiculous." Looking at my curvy figure in the mirror, I didn't believe I couldn't win him over. I stumbled and leaned towards him. Books say that accidental physical contact makes people more attracted. But David wasn't playing along at all. He slightly turned aside. "If your legs are weak, I can call a doctor for you." To hell with the doctor. I gritted my teeth, no need. Unexpectedly, as I passed the table, I tripped over the table leg. I stumbled and fell right onto him. My soft chest brushed against his firm arm. His body stiffened, and he grunted, "On purpose?" I gasped, "This time it really wasn't." I leaned back on the sofa, and he sat half a meter away from me. As if I were some kind of monster. The more he avoided me, the more I wanted to get close to him. I got up and straddled his lap, cupped his face, forcing him to face me. "David, how long are you going to keep pretending?" David is 7 years older than me. When I was 18, my parents asked him to take care of me for a while. When I met him, he was wearing a black shirt, with fair skin and a sharp jawline. The sunlight made him look like a gentleman. He politely greeted my parents and then turned his gaze to me. "This must be Emily, right? I heard from your mom that you're this year's provincial top scorer." "Impressive." I looked up and met his eyes. "Thank you." While I was sizing him up, he was also sizing me up, but his gaze was subtle, while mine was more direct. After my family left, David took me to my room. "See if anything is missing. You can tell me directly. Don't be shy. Just treat it as your own home." I didn't have much fondness for him. Besides being good-looking and having built a business empire at a young age, he was just an elder sent by my family to monitor me. When I saw that the room was decorated exactly like my home, even the placement of the dolls was identical, I couldn't describe the feeling. Out of politeness, I forced a standard professional fake smile. "Got it. Thank you, David." He raised his eyebrows imperceptibly. "It's fine." As a qualified elder, David's behavior was impeccable. He cared about my grades in life, buying me many clothes, dresses, and nutritional supplements. We got along quite well. Until that morning, I stared at the mountain of new clothes, which included underwear and panties. Holding them, my face flushed intensely, just as David called me for dinner. I calmed down and said, "In the future, I'll buy my own intimate items, no need for you to worry." He froze for a moment, glanced at the sofa, and instantly understood. These were purchased by the secretary. I had no idea. He easily distanced himself, and I could only bottle up my anger. Passing by him, I accidentally bumped his shoulder. "It better be. Let's go downstairs for breakfast together." I was struggling with how to avoid him to attend a friend's exclusive party based on looks, likely playing until very late. I probed, David, are you busy with work later? David wiped his fingertips casually. Something wrong? By the way, I almost forgot to tell you, I have a business trip tomorrow night. I'll have uncle.I stay to pick you up from school. Hearing this, I almost started humming Good Days in my heart. But on the surface, I flashed him my usual innocent, naive smile. David, don't worry about me. I'm not a child, be careful on the road. David, fine. At the looks-based party, besides beauties, all were handsome guys. I was dancing in a crop top outfit, having a blast, when a guy suddenly approached to confess. Emily, I've been watching you for a long time. Let's date for a while. As I tilted my head thinking, a long, strong arm yanked me behind. Emily doesn't date in high school. The voice was icy and firm. Seeing David appear out of nowhere, I didn't react for a moment. Duh. David, aren't you on a business trip? He pulled me straight outside. Got guts, coming to a place like this alone. I angrily shook off his hand. What right do you have to control me, ruining my dating chances? David stood straight, silently staring at me. After a long pause, he said, you can date, but not that guy. I already knew how wild that guy was outside. Even if David hadn't come, I wouldn't have agreed. But now, the night breeze blew over, David gazing at me with deep eyes that seemed to pull you in. We were close, the pleasant scent of pine enveloping us. Combined with alcohol's temptation, it made my heart itch. I stepped closer, poking his chest with my index finger. Then who's okay? Is David okay? He froze for a second. What? I said, can I date you? Back home, David lectured me for half an hour, things like my attachment to him isn't romantic love. I'm not a 3-year-old, I know what I'm doing. After that, I pushed him out of the room. Thinking of the kiss I planted on his lips earlier by standing on tiptoe, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. My feelings for David started from when he taught me shooting hands-on, or during my period when I stubbornly craved ice cream, and he strictly disciplined me, allowing just one bite. I couldn't figure it out. The next day, David brought home a woman. She wore a tight red dress, had big wavy curls, and a curvy figure with an eye-catching appearance. She flashed a red-lipped smile and greeted me. I smiled back and said, hello, Auntie. Her expression stiffened, and she stayed silent. Instead, David couldn't stand it and scolded me in a low voice, Emily, stop being difficult. Where's your manners? I clenched my fists, holding back my discomfort, and turned to go back to my room. I slammed the door shut with a bang, making the cup on the table shake. Sounds came from outside, but I didn't know what they were doing and didn't want to guess. After that incident, as summer break was ending, my family came to pick me up. That crush faded away without resolution. But I never expected to run into him in Paris. David grabbed my waist with both hands, about to pull me down, when a group of people showed up. Whoa! David's quite the lucky man. I told you pigs would fly today. You actually agreed to come to a place like this with us. Amid the teasing, I hugged David tightly, burying my face in his neck, my warm breath brushing his skin. He shifted away and reluctantly draped his suit jacket over my head, saying, stop joking around, Emily is shy. After explaining to his friends, David pulled me away. I peeked back, and the whole table of men and women were staring our way. I quickly ducked my head and stuck close behind David. Feeling shy now? Hurry up. David led me down to the parking lot. It was pitch black, and I clung desperately to his sleeve. David, you won't abandon me, will you? Don't come to places like this alone again, it's dangerous. I caught the key phrase instantly. So I can come if I'm with you? He stopped walking. I bumped into his straight back with a soft gasp. After a few seconds of silence, he said, if you're with me, yes. I snapped, David, you know that's not what I meant. Emily, you're still young. I puffed out my chest, I'm not young, I have a C cup. Don't believe me? Feel it. I took his hand and pressed it to my chest. He jerked back as if burned. Rubbing his forehead, he said, get in the car first. I buckled my seatbelt. David didn't speak to me the whole way as the car turned into his driveway. I'm serious. This isn't a small thing. Pleasing yourself is the top priority. He sighed, go take a shower first. I'd gotten a bit wet from the rain coming out of the bar, and fearing I'd let the opportunity slip away, I showered as fast as possible. Noticing movement, David turned and asked, done showering? Yeah. I wrapped my arms around his neck and kissed him. This time, he didn't dodge away. His gaze was deep and intense. His broad, powerful palm pressed firmly against my back. Have you made up your mind? Cut the crap, are you not up for it? He scooped me up into his arms. Don't provoke me, Emily. Then the whole world spun around. David demonstrated it firsthand, showing me what it means to be a gentleman in clothes but a beast without them. The next morning, I rubbed my sore waist. David lay beside me, his arm draped over it. I laughed it off, just wanting to brush it over quickly. I said I was sleepwalking, do you believe me? He sneered, what do you think? I calmed down. Only then did I notice David wasn't wearing any clothes, with a towel tied loosely around his waist, looking like it might fall off at any moment. My face flushed bright red, no, why aren't you dressed? Didn't you say you wanted to dance on my abs the other day? Now you're acting shy? I forced out a stiff smile. David, what are you talking about? I don't understand. He scoffed coldly, playing dumb? $1,000, messing with me? My brain froze for a moment as I hesitated over how to escape. Just then, Sarah walked over with her eyes covered. Seeing David, she paused for several seconds. David, weren't you on a business trip? David glanced at me lightly, something urgent came up, so I returned. Sarah's gaze swept between us, so what's going on with you two? Afraid David would spill what happened in Paris, I quickly explained, I took a wrong turn to the bathroom and was just heading back to my room. Then, I shot him a pleading look. David agreed, I pretended nonchalance, then David, you rest early. Sorry to disturb. I turned away, not noticing David's darkened expression. I lay in bed tossing and turning, unable to sleep. Unexpectedly, the next morning, David and I ran into each other in the bathroom again. I walked in stiffly, David, morning. He responded coldly with a I dawdled while squeezing toothpaste beside him, gathering my courage before saying, by the way, you must never tell Sarah about that. David brushed his teeth in front of the mirror, silent. I gritted my teeth in frustration, moving closer. David, are you listening? Only then did he turn around, stepping toward me. Emily, are you trying to deny everything after having your fun? That's all in the past, David. Don't dwell on it. I pushed him away, about to dash downstairs. The next second, David swiftly grabbed my wrist. David was a head and a half taller than me. When he looked down, the pressure was intense. I leaned against the cold tiles, shrinking like a ball. I forced myself to straighten my back. I'm warning you, don't try anything. David loosened his grip slightly, his eyes darkening. What if I want to take responsibility? His words almost fried my brain. I waved at him. No, David. You really shouldn't feel obligated, we're all adults, you don't need to take responsibility for me. Don't worry, I won't tell my family or bother you. My voice trailed off. I pursed my lips, looking up cautiously to gauge his reaction. He took a deep breath. There are some things I need to clarify with you. Just then, Sarah called me for dinner downstairs. I pushed him away. I'll head down. Remember, don't tell anyone about this. David said, are you afraid people will find out about our relationship? I replied, better safe than sorry. That night in Paris, I was the one who seduced him. Maybe it was just a moment of passion back then. Now he's talking about taking responsibility, it's just that ingrained sense of duty in his bones. It was never about real feelings. Anyway, for the next 2 days, he went to work at the company, and Sarah and I went out to have fun, barely crossing paths. After that, we would go our separate ways. However, next, Sarah finished the last bite of noodles and said, by the way, David, later Emily and I are heading out, could you give us a ride? I almost choked. My leg, which had been idly swaying under the table, suddenly froze and accidentally brushed against David's pant leg. He gave me an extra look. I quickly signaled Sarah with my eyes, no need, David is swamped, handling multi-million-dollar contracts every single day. We can just grab a cab ourselves. David would surely refuse, right? Hearing that, David's mouth twitched. It's not that over the top. Sarah leaned in and whispered in my ear, why are you so worked up? Relax, he'll just drop us off and head to work. He won't stick around to play. That wasn't the point. I turned my head to glance at David. He was meticulously wiping his fingers clean with a tissue. Catching me watching him, he flashed me a grin. To me, it seemed downright sneaky. It's tough to get a taxi here, I'll take you. No hassle. I was speechless for a second. I hadn't expected David to agree. And to come along. Unable to argue with Sarah, we ended up in David's car. Inside, I kept my eyes down and focused inward, avoiding any distraction. David stared straight ahead, and from my angle, I could only see his jawline, sharper than any life plan. Hesitantly, I spoke up, David, what time are you heading to the office? Trying to shoo me away? Getting Sarah's confused look, I quickly backpedaled, of course not, I absolutely want you to join us. David couldn't help nodding, yeah, true, since I'm covering all the costs. Sarah cheered, yes. I knew you were the most generous, David. Tonight, I want Australian lobster, stir-fried squid with salted egg yolk. I gritted my teeth silently, Sarah, that traitor. David was totally doing this on purpose. That sly old fox. While waiting at a red light, David looked down and texted me, you only nibbled at breakfast, are you full? Me, full. I started fidgeting with my phone keys. Sarah's gaze drifted over, so I turned off the screen. She propped her chin, David, I forgot my shawl, pull over at the mall up ahead. The moment the car stopped, she bolted off without a word, leaving just David and me inside. The car went dead silent, so quiet we could hear each other breathing. David broke the tension first, feel like going for a stroll? No. David paused for a few seconds, I remember you used to love shopping. Emily, don't stress over it, I won't push you. I stayed quiet for a moment, murmured then looked out the window. That was for the best. But why did it feel so off? Even later, when he spoke, I was barely listening. That said, he probably couldn't wait to distance himself from me. With just the two of us now, I lowered my head to stare at the floor, my eyes stealing glances at David. He stood up, used his fingertip to pop open the can, and got a bit of foam on it. Emily Johnson. After a good while, I finally reacted, looked up at David. Huh? What are you thinking about? I called you 3 times and you didn't respond. I remember you like this. He handed over a cup of peach sparkling water. His knuckles were distinct, clean, and neat. I inexplicably thought of that romantic rainy night in Paris. How those hands that sign contracts brought me immense pleasure. Blushing, I took it. Oh, okay. I took a step forward. David inexplicably bent down, his warm breath brushing against my face. His deep gaze landed on my face, and I could barely hold it together. I pushed him to move forward, changing the subject. Watch your step, don't block others. He chuckled softly. Fortunately, it was relatively normal while shopping. And with Sarah back, the atmosphere became lively again. I must win over my crush today. David glanced at Mike. Where's your hotel? I'll drop you off. Mike widened his eyes. Uncle, you're not being fair. There are so many rooms, can't you spare me one? Sarah said, it's like this, Emily needs his help with something, so she might have to go back together tonight. She secretly pinched me. I met David's gaze. Yes, that's how it is. David asked calmly, what kind of help requires a late night? In front of David, I always feel like an open book, one look from him and he knows what I'm thinking. Thankfully, he didn't press further. David called out, Emily. I turned reflexively. Huh? David said, you sit in front. I remember you get carsick. Sarah muttered under her breath, could the favoritism be any more obvious? Exchanging looks with them, I dawdled and opened the passenger door to get in. With 4 of us together, the atmosphere was a bit tense. Mike wanted a late-night snack and kept chattering about what to eat. David got a headache from the noise and told Mike to be quiet. When we got home, the takeout arrived just in time. As a result, the 3 of us sat together. David stood on the balcony looking at his phone, as if handling work, and his silhouette looked lonely. I moved my lips. Uncle, do you want to join us for some food? He lowered his voice. No, you eat. I looked down and texted Sarah. Look, he didn't react at all. Maybe he really doesn't care. The other side replied quickly with a. Sensing something wrong, I checked the contact name. I'd sent it to David. Unbelievable. No wonder the usually loud Sarah was so aloof today. They both use pure black images for profile pictures. I looked up in surprise at David. He walked over like nothing was wrong. I stiffened for a moment. Sarah leaned in and asked, what's wrong, Emily? Nothing, nothing, try this shrimp, it's delicious. Not wanting anyone to notice anything unusual, I quickly lowered my head to eat. Would David figure it out? He asked Mike leisurely, why did you come over so suddenly today? Mike said, Emily and I have that childhood arranged marriage, and since we haven't seen each other in so long, I came to check on her. David tightened his grip on the cup. You want to marry Emily? Mike said casually, it's grandfather's order, the arranged marriage isn't easy to refuse. David Wilson said coldly, marriage is not a game. Michael Davis replied, there's no way around it. The old man said the alliance between the Johnson family and Wilson family through marriage is inevitable. David tapped the table lightly with his finger, I'll handle this matter. Mike and I have been bickering since childhood. I once told my family I didn't like Mike and wanted to make my own decisions about marriage. But my family insisted that Mike was well-bred and upright, having grown up under the elders' watchful eyes, and that we knew each other inside out. Plus, the marriage alliance between the Johnson and Wilson families would double the wealth of both businesses. Yet I have no feelings for Mike at all, and he doesn't like me either, he just sees me as a little sister. This time, I was purely being used. He grinned and served me food. I remember Emily Johnson likes this dish, so eat more. Mike kept calling Emily, and David's expression grew colder. Finish eating early and wash up. After saying that, he elegantly wiped his mouth with a tissue, turned, and left. Before going, he deliberately glanced at me. It sent chills down my spine. What on earth was that about? I stirred my noodles, scheming in my mind. Could David be jealous? After everything was over, I quietly went upstairs. Passing David's room, I peeked toward it. There was no movement inside. It was late, so David must have been resting. I silently warned myself not to walk into the wrong room like last night. But when I went to wash up, in my days, a tall figure stood at the door. I looked at the doors on both sides, rubbed my eyes, and muttered softly, I didn't go to the wrong room this time. David's voice was low, you didn't. Footsteps sounded on the stairs, and David quickly pulled me into the room. Did you bring Mike back on purpose to provoke me? The room was dimly lit, his voice deep and alluring, his intense eyes seeming to draw me in, completely devoid of his daytime coolness. Even the small mole beneath his eye was incredibly tempting, and lower down were his fair collarbones and chest muscles straining against his shirt. I stammered, what? I don't know what you mean, David. In that intimate position, David's presence was overwhelming. I couldn't hold back, afraid I'd spill everything if I let my guard down. David pressed his thumb to my lips. What you said back in Paris was sweeter. Thinking of those unspeakable scenes, my face flushed with embarrassment. I forgot. He continued, you said you'd be willing to die for me. Those cheesy pickup lines I learned online, now coming from his mouth, made me cringe so hard I could die. Someone knocked on the door, and I tiptoed in panic to cover his mouth. Shut up, stop talking. Mike's voice came from outside the door. David, are you there? The interruption calmed both David and me down. I didn't dare move. Luckily, the villa had good soundproofing, and since no one responded, Mike soon left. I quickly got off David, the heat spreading from my face to my neck. In the process, my low-cut nightgown revealed more than intended, so I hastily pulled it up. David cleared his throat softly, straightened his wrinkled clothes, and steadied his ragged breathing. I'm tired. Whatever it is, let's talk tomorrow. Lying in bed with my racing heart, I thought of how Sarah once told me that David kept a photo of me in his wallet. A bold idea was forming, but I wasn't quite sure yet. Perhaps I should be bolder too. The next morning, Sarah and I were painting downstairs. The butler came to deliver a message that someone was looking for David. I glanced over curiously and froze for a moment. It was that girl from before, bold and radiant. She wore a red dress, just like that year, standing beside David, graceful and elegant, a perfect match. As they chatted, the girl looked my way and smiled openly. I heard Sarah say that David likes seductive, well-built women. I looked down at myself and instantly felt deeply discouraged. Mike glanced at my expression and said, jealous? At this rate, by the time you officially confirm your relationship, it'll be too late. I glared at him, don't bring that up. Distractedly, I headed to the bathroom, walking with my head down, and accidentally bumped into a solid wall. I rubbed my nose and let out a soft cry. David looked down and asked, does it hurt? You've got paint on your left cheek. Where? I casually wiped it with my sleeve. David said, no. Don't move, let me see. Okay. After that, he reached out his finger and wiped my face, then showed me his finger. Sure enough, there was white paint on it. I pushed him away. Thanks, Uncle David. I instinctively stepped back. His eyes darkened, and he sighed, Emily, are you avoiding me? I fiddled with the paint palette for a bit and asked him back, "Will Uncle David marry that girl downstairs? Do you care?" "No." After answering, I avoided his gaze and quickly ran downstairs. Such an ambiguous atmosphere was clearly inappropriate right then. The person he liked was downstairs. What were we doing? I felt uneasy. That girl was called Olivia. Since she was Uncle David's friend, she stayed for lunch. I was unenthusiastic. "I'm not hungry, I'll skip it for now." David frowned. "Nothing to your taste? What do you want to eat?" "I'll have someone buy it." "Fried chicken tenders? Chicken nuggets?" Everything he mentioned was what I usually loved to eat. The more he did this, the more I felt heartache. As they spoke, Olivia walked in. Not wanting to be looked down on, and also curious about how they interacted, I softened. "Let's eat, I'll go first." David looked at me with a complex expression, as if something was brewing inside him. The four of us ate. I just kept my head down and focused on my food, pricking up my ears to listen to their conversation, which was mostly about company collaborations, endorsements, and similar topics. At the whole table, Mike was the happiest eater. "Emily, try this, dip it in that sauce." "Here, I'll peel the biggest shrimp for you." I couldn't understand what Mike was up to. He was frantically signaling to me, even trying to feed me shrimp. I could do it myself. I noticed David's gaze unintentionally falling on me, and I stiffly took the shrimp Mike handed over. David said coldly, "No talking at the table." Mike said, "Uncle David, it's been so many years since things changed." David shot him a look, and Mike immediately shut up. Mike stiffened his neck and said, "Uncle David, I'm behaving now, please go easy on me." The meal was absurd, and after it ended, I immediately went upstairs to pack my things to go home. When David saw me pulling out my suitcase, his expression was unreadable. "Running away from home? You're joking, Uncle David, my home is in City A." I pulled my suitcase and was about to go downstairs. David grabbed my wrist. "Emily, we need to talk." I stopped and listened to him. "What do you think about your marriage with Mike?" "I'll follow the elders' opinions." "Are you being stubborn?" "Mike isn't right for you." "How is Mike not right?" "I can't find fault with him in any way." "He doesn't like you." "That's true, Mike only sees me as a sister." David rubbed his forehead and said earnestly, "Emily, Mike has a girlfriend he's been dating for nearly 6 years, he won't marry you." I said, "That's fine, I can choose someone else." "Or do you plan to help me find a suitable match for an arranged marriage, Uncle David?" David, He actually said My eyes widened in shock, instantly filling with tears. I was so angry I shook off his hand. But upon hearing the next sentence, I calmed down immediately. "How about me?" "What?" "I mean, let me take care of you for the rest of your life. I wouldn't feel right entrusting you to anyone else." I was stunned by his directness. Later, David told me that Olivia was his relative, and in terms of seniority, I should call her Aunt Olivia. After we became official boyfriend and girlfriend, we needed to prepare to go home and meet our parents. But sometimes I kept second-guessing myself. From the moment David and I first met, he had always treated me as a junior. Now he's proposing to marry me. Is it out of duty or real affection? I was helping him pack his luggage, my gaze wandering. He noticed. "Afraid your family will be mad?" "No, not really." After thinking for a bit, rather than stewing in uncertainty alone, I decided to ask him directly. He raised an eyebrow and smiled. I pretended to be annoyed. "What's so funny?" "Just tell me honestly." He grasped my fingertips. "Maybe both, but Emily, my feelings for you are far more than just duty. You came to my house when you were 18, back then you were young, and I worried you might not understand your own emotions. Perhaps I was also holding myself back, warning myself not to do anything inappropriate. But when we met again in Paris and you reached out to me, I truly couldn't resist. I said, "So you were sober that day?" His lips curved into a faint smile. "I'm not that clueless." On the day we announced our relationship, the Johnson family and the Wilson family were both shocked. My father almost beat him up. "I thought of you as a brother, but you want to be my son-in-law." "Then I'll call you Dad in advance." I haven't admitted it yet. I sat aside eating grapes, watching them argue. After beating around the bush for a while, my dad finally got to the point. "By the way, that piece of land we've been competing for." David understood the hint. "No problem, this is part of the engagement gift." "Really?" David nodded affirmatively. On the way back, I hooked my pinky finger with his. "That land is in the city center, are you really willing to give it up?" Although my dad wasn't really serious about asking for that land. In your heart, am I stingy? Not really. To be honest, David really has no faults I can find with me. I stopped walking and looked at him. He looked back at me, raised his hand, and touched my head. The next second, I was firmly kissed by his masculine scent and lips. After a long while, he let go, said in a low voice, "Emily, after meeting you, I realized I'm an animal. After returning to the country, the first time I saw you, I wanted to do this." I stood on tiptoe and kissed him back. The evening breeze blew gently, it was really tender.